I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The extremist MAGA loser candidate for governor in Arizona, Kari Lake, has officially lost her lawsuit in Maricopa County, challenging the results of the 2022 gubernatorial election, where Kari Lake lost by over 17,000 votes to Governor-elect Katie Hobbs. This election challenge was always frivolous from the outset, despite the fact that Kari Lake was spreading lies and disinformation in typical MAGA fashion to the public and specifically to her right-wing extremist echo chamber. You'll recall that about 8 of the 10 causes of action were initially dismissed by Judge Peter Thompson, the Maricopa County Superior Court judge overseeing this case. However, Judge Thompson allowed 2 of the claims to proceed to an evidentiary hearing, although the standard for allowing it to proceed to an evidentiary hearing was to accept all of the facts pled in the complaint as true to then be tested factually in the evidentiary hearing. And so the claims that remained was, one, that Katie Hobbs and Maricopa County Board of Supervisors put out illegal tabulator configurations on the printers to intentionally try to sabotage the election and to change the results of the election so that Katie Hobbs would win and Kari Lake would lose. You would have to show an intentional printer malfunction, an intentional manipulation of the printer to specifically overturn the results of the election. And then the other count that remained was that there was a chain of custody violation whereby the intent was a malicious one to try to, again, turn the election in favor of Katie Hobbs away from Kari Lake. All of the evidence that was presented over this 2-day evidentiary hearing made it very clear to legal observers who take the law seriously and accurately report on what's taking place that Kari Lake was absolutely going to lose. And not only was she going to lose, she'd likely be sanctioned for bringing this frivolous case. But nonetheless, we've heard from all of the right-wing echo chamber as they were watching it, again, because they live in their echo chamber, they thought that they were doing good in the trial. They thought that they were doing well, that they were presenting the evidence, but they weren't even addressing the central issue. The central issue is that the fraud being perpetuated, that's what's being alleged, that the fraud being perpetuated was done intentionally, was done maliciously, and had the impact of overturning the results of the election in favor of Governor-elect Katie Hobbs and causing Kari Lake to lose where Kari Lake would otherwise win. That's the standard that would have to be proven by Kari Lake if she wanted to win this. And they weren't even asking their witnesses the right questions to even prove the central claim. Instead, they went with all of these conspiracies that, oh, it was a 19-inch ballot, but it was printed on a 20-inch page, and that caused printing errors. Now, even though printing errors were small and the printing errors were ultimately fixed, even if you accept arguendo that there were these printing errors, what you would have to show is that the printing errors was an illegal and intentional printer tabulation, configuration, manipulation, and that the impact of it 100% overturned the results of the election. That wasn't even being explored by the experts, by the witnesses. In fact, when the Maricopa County attorneys would ask the witnesses questions, do you have any facts? Do you have any evidence at all that this changed the results of the election? The witnesses fumbled and weren't able to answer the questions, and the witnesses didn't even know whether there could be other plausible explanations for the conspiracy theories that they were spewing. We also just saw on display how poorly of a job Kari Lake's lawyers were doing. And again, in the right-wing echo chamber, they were cheering these people on like they were doing a great job, but They weren't even able to call witnesses because they struck the witnesses from their own witness list, forgot that they struck the witnesses from their witness list, then tried to call those witnesses, and the judge said, you didn't even have these on your witness list. They tried to do that with documents, and they tried to do that with voicemail, and they go down these rabbit holes. Like there was this one voicemail they wanted to introduce into evidence where they said there's someone named Betty, and Betty works for the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, and she's involved in the elections, that Betty was somehow involved in this, and they want to play this audio. And as the Maricopa County attorney said, we don't know who's Betty. What are you talking about? You didn't even disclose this voice message at all. There's no one named Betty who works here. Like, what in the world are you talking about? And the judge would ask him, hey, did you disclose that this is a audio that you were going to play during trial? And then the lawyers for Kari Lake would say, well, Your Honor. And the judge said, look, as an officer of the court, is this something that you disclosed? And they would fumble with the most basic things. Not being able to call witnesses, not being able to introduce evidence. And then the witnesses that they brought in were all filled and riddled with these conspiracy theories. So we did another video here on the MeidasTouch network when all the right-wing echo chamber was spewing, oh, they're going to win, they're going to win. I was like, no, they're not. Not only they're going to lose, they're going to be sanctioned. This is some frivolous, weird, deranged stuff that Kari Lake's lawyers are introducing. And by the way, in this order by Judge Peter Thompson, one of the things that he invited was a sanctions motion to be filed by Maricopa County and Katie Hobbs. By the way, Katie Hobbs wasn't even called as a witness here. And that was one of the big conspiracies that Kari Lake was spreading. Katie Hobbs was involved in this. Well, you didn't even put Katie Hobbs on your witness list. You didn't even call Katie Hobbs as a witness in the case. You removed her from subpoena. You removed her from the witness list. Here, let me just pull up right now the final findings of fact and conclusions of law by Judge Peter Thompson, so you can just see the final order. Here's what it says. Considering all evidence presented, the court finds as follows. As to count 2, the illegal printer tabulation configuration, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence of misconduct in violation of the Arizona statute. B, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct was committed by an officer making or participating in canvass under the Arizona law. C, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct was intended to affect the result of the 2022 general election. D, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct did in fact affect the result of the 2022 general election. On all 4 of the elements, the court said it did not find the evidence that in any way would support Kari Lake's claims. Now, as to count 4, the chain of custody violation, similarly, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence of misconduct in violation of the Arizona statute. The court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct was committed by an officer making or participating in a canvass under Arizona law. C, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct was intended to affect the result of the 2022 general election. D, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct did in fact affect the result of the 2022 general election. Therefore, it is ordered confirming the election of Katie Hobbs as governor-elect pursuant to Arizona law. The court notes the representation of the county defendants that a motion for sanctions would be forthcoming, and the court also considers the need of this court to enter an order under Rule 54C of Arizona Rule of Civil Procedure so that an appeal on all issues might be taken in a timely fashion. Therefore, it is further ordered that a statement of costs, including compensation of inspectors under ARS, the Arizona law, must be filed by 8 a.m. Monday, December 26, 2022, Failure to do so by the deadline will be deemed a waiver of those costs. So the Maricopa County defendants are being invited to submit the costs they incurred for Kari Lake to have to repay them their cost. And then it goes, it is further ordered any motion for sanctions must be filed by 8 a.m. Monday, December 26, 2022, and any response by plaintiff must be filed by 5 p.m. Monday, December 26, 2022. The court will not consider a reply. So the court is inviting a sanctions motion to be filed by Katie Hobbs' lawyer there against Kari Lake. And I do believe that Kari Lake will be sanctioned here. And just so you know what I meant when I was reading the court's order above, where the court says, the court also considers the need of the court to enter an order under Rule 54C. Basically, the court needs to issue a final judgment so that it could be deemed a final case so that it could eventually be appealed if Kari Lake is going to try to appeal the frivolous complaint and the frivolous case that she brought to the Court of Appeals. So that's why the court is setting all of these deadlines very quickly by the 26th. But I can assure you that the Maricopa County attorneys already have their sanctions motion ready to go and already have the amount that they will be seeking in sanctions. Then goes on to say, after consideration of any sanctions motion or the failure to file such a motion and the presentation of costs to be assessed, the court will enter a signed judgment under Rule 54C. So the final judgment will likely happen December 27th. Kari Lake has now said she's going to appeal this. She has challenged this in statements that she's made on social media, again, continuing to spread more disinformation. Let me read for you the statement that Kari Lake has made on her social media platform. She goes, "My election case provided the world with evidence that proves our elections are run outside of the law. The judge did not rule in our favor. However, for the sake of restoring faith and honesty in our elections, I will appeal the ruling." Literally, the judge said that there was absolutely no evidence, and anybody who would be watching that with a modicum of good faith would show that there was no evidence. But here's the thing with MAGA extremists like Kari Lake and like Donald Trump and like all of these MAGA extremists out there who are filing these cases. At the end of the day, they don't care about the evidence. Their grift, their whole mantra is to file these frivolous lawsuits to undermine our court systems, to undermine free and fair elections. And that is precisely what Kari Lake has done and what Kari Lake will continue to do. It's also worth pointing out as well that all of the other Arizona election deniers who filed lawsuits have lost their lawsuits as well. Abe Hamadeh lost his case that he filed in Mojave Court. He was running for attorney general. He lost that, and he lost the case that he filed. Similarly, Mark Fincham, the election-denying Secretary of State candidate, lost that race as well and lost all of the lawsuits that he filed. So all of the election denier MAGA extremist candidates have now lost all of their lawsuits. We told you that was going to happen. These lawsuits were utterly frivolous. These lawsuits should never have been filed in the first place. These lawsuits were all viewed by different judges on these cases too, but I guess for MAGA extremists, they lose in federal court, they lose in Mojave, they lose in Maricopa County. Everyone who actually is presented with evidence rules against them because they have no evidence for what they're saying. They just want to go on their right-wing echo chamber and spew their conspiracies over and over again. Well, the wheels of justice turned in the right direction. Kari Lake is a loser, and a loser again. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. And in addition, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch for exclusive content you can only get there. But most importantly, help us grow this independent media platform. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Happy holidays.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.